Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Tea Talk. We have a wonderful, wonderful show for you today. And I want you to just get settled down, grab your tea and your hot chocolate or whatever you're drinking this time of the year. The weather has been chilly, so I can just see you with that hot cinnamon drink or whatever it is you have that warms you up. So get up close because we have something that we're going to talk about. Now, listen, today the topic is going to be something that affects everybody at some season, and it does not care whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, or whatever, it will still come. So we're going to be talking about grief. Okay. Surviving the holidays, grieving or suffering a loss or feeling depression or not feeling, everybody's got this music playing and everybody's saying happy and cheer. Well, what happens when it's Christmas or Thanksgiving and you're not feeling like you want to celebrate? You're not feeling happy and jolly. As a matter of fact, you can barely get out of bed. As a matter of fact, you feel like you just want to crawl up in a corner somewhere and die. I mean, these are true things that happen to people because of a loss, and there's different losses. So go ahead and tune in and don't think that we're not going to cover you, because losses could be losses of a dream, something you thought you were going to become, and then something happens and you realize all your hard work and your dreams have gone and they're not going to happen. It could be some of you that are single. Here again, you're alone again at Christmas Eve. By now, you thought I would be married at least one time, and you realize I'm not being married. I'm not getting married, and looks like I may never get married. So there's so many losses. A divorce. You were married and you thought it was going to be forever, and now all of a sudden you find yourself you're going through a divorce, and that person doesn't seem to love you anymore. Or you may be trying to survive on the other side of going through that divorce. There's so many losses. It might even be a loss for your child, where you had a child and you thought this child's going to grow up to be this. And then you find out the child has a debilitating disease or a Down syndrome, and you realize this child's going to be with me the rest of their life. They will never marry. They will never, have the kind of a home that they can run that I can go over to. They will be here as my child forever. So there's so many losses. And when Christmas time comes, and which is we're right up on Christmas time, these feelings kind of really exasperate, because everybody is talking about how happy and things are and how wonderful it is. And the reality is, sometimes during these seasons, it's not a wonderful time. It's not a happy time. When my mother passed away, I never forget that. She passed away the first Thanksgiving, we all went to her house, and it was just devastating not having her here. But, I had to learn to get through it. And I didn't think I would be able to get through the Thanksgivings, but now it's been a long, about 20 something years. So I am doing well. And, but I didn't know back then that I would be doing it as well as I am. And I'm sure some of you all that are going through different deaths and divorces and devastations and depressions, there was a season that you didn't know how you would get through it. And my team here, all of them have been through some kind of devastating. They're going to be sharing with you some of those, whether it's with their children, with their spouses or their careers, or even the death of a loved one. So go call somebody, go ahead and share this with someone else, because we're going to show you how to get through the holiday season. We're not saying it's going to be perfect and happy and bright like all the music is, but we will going to show you how to get through it. Our guest today is from Griefshare, and it's Sister Brenda from our church, and she has a marvelous ministry there called Grief Loss. And so Griefshare, it talks about grief and loss, but it's Griefshare, and she does a wonderful, wonderful job at it. So I want to bring her on and let her tell you a little bit about Griefshare, but you make sure you start putting your questions in the chat. Call those people up that are going through stuff. You know who they are, and tell them you got to listen to this. We're going to help you get through this, because another thing that and I don't have the statistics, but maybe somebody can pull them up, about suicide during this time of the year is very high because people feel like I just can't do it. We don't want that to happen to you. We're going to have people here that can tell you, I've been through it, I made it, you can make it too. And then we have programs here with Sister Brenda that's going to show you the steps to get through, because it's a process. It's not just about telling you what to do, it's about walking you through and walking with you. So let's help me welcome Sister Brenda Harvey to Tea Talk. Thank you for coming, Sister Brenda.
I'm so glad to be with you tonight, and I'm just hoping that what I have to share with you will help everybody. I'm involved with a program called Griefshare. It's an international organization as a grief recovery program. Okay, and it's 13 weeks long, and you can just go to the Griefshare website, put in your zip code, and it'll pull up a list of about 50 churches that are near you, and you pick the location and the time that's right for your schedule. Okay. Right. And they will
like about it. I'm sorry to cut you off, Sister Brenda, but that's what I like about it, is that, first of all, I forgot to say that it is Christ-centered.
Yes, it is.
Thing. And you don't have to come to just our church. You just go to that website, put in your zip code. It will give you a church near you. Okay, yes. Very good. Thank you. Yes.
And we let the people know up front that it is Christian-based, but you don't have to be a Christian to go there. If you attend, you will be helped. And if you want to know the Lord, the Lord will pull on your heart, and there are people there. The facilitators are there. If you want to be accepted into the body of Christ, there are people there that can do that and help you. Okay.
Right. And also, Sister Brenda mentioned too that it is free. There is no cost.
Right. Okay. The only thing you have to provide is your workbook. Okay. It's set up on we call it a three-legged stool. There's a video that you have to watch. You have a workbook that you have homework in, and that you can also take notes in.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's the discussion time where we discuss the video and we discuss the homework that's in the book. Now, if you don't watch the video and you just do the homework, that's where you're going to get your spiritual growth from. The video offers expert professional counseling tips, but the homework is all Christian based.
Right.
You do the homework, it will draw you closer to God. Okay.
Right. And the homework is not a negative thing, guys. It's not something that they're going to beat you over the head over if you don't do, but the homework is to help you get closer to Christ. But it's also it's a part of the process of the mind, of helping the mind to understand what's going on, and to start to kind of accept and learn how to move forward. So the homework is there to help you, not to be a burden. And if they don't have their homework, you don't kick them out, do you?
No.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, we have a way of engaging them in the homework, even if they don't do it. Some of the questions are so simple that just from watching the video, we can ask questions that will draw them in and let them know that they can be a part of the conversation. The very fact that they're sharing in the group will encourage the other participants. Okay.
But they don't have to share though, right? They don't have to share. But sometimes when grief is so heavy, it's just a whole lot just to get yourself there, and to people making you talk. You don't make them talk, right?
No, we don't. We have had people to come in that didn't say anything for about 5 weeks, and then finally they started to open up. They wouldn't say any more than their names. Okay. And we've had people to come in and cry the whole cycle until we get to the end. And at the end, they're laughing, they're joyous, they're opening up, sharing what they've learned, So it is a process. It is not a one-time event.
And I think that's important too, what you just said, Sister Brenda, because with us being pastors, we you know, we meet with a lot of people who are going for funerals and getting them ready for the celebration with their loved one. And a lot of times people were like, you know, I don't want to cry in front of people, but I want people to know this is a safe place where
It
if you
is.
cry, you're not going to be judged, that you're not strong enough. Because I know I had one lady one time was telling the person, well, now, you know, you need to be strong, don't cry. No, if you want to cry, it's a safe place to cry your head off if you want to. I think that's would
Yes,
be good.
it is. Yes. And there are also facilitators there that if you really get overwhelmed, that they will go out with you out of the room and console you, give you whatever you need to get yourself together, and then they'll come back in with you. We will not leave you alone. And
Yes, we're
that's
not
the
going to ignore
value
you.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's the value of going into a group program. You're not in it alone. There are other people who've lost loved ones just like you, so they know what you're going through. They don't feel exactly what you feel, but they know what you're going through.
Right. And I think that's really important too, that, you know, when you go to a group of people, and I tell people don't say this because I know what you're going through. No, you don't. You really don't know, you know, what I'm going through, because your loss of a child and the loss of somebody else's child may not be the same. You both lost a child. And so the feelings are different and people grieve differently.
That's
Do you find that to be true, that everybody grieves differently?
Everybody grieves differently.
Mhm.
It can be, you can lose the same person and still grieve differently because you grieve according to your relationship to the person, according to your personality. You may even grieve according to like some of your customs. Some countries' customs may be different. There are a
Mhm.
lot of things that can influence the way you grieve. So don't compare your grief to somebody else.
That's a good idea. That's a good thought, because there's no right or wrong way to grieve.
Right.
So don't
Nobody
feel like,
grieves.
mm-mm,
Nobody grieves exactly the same. Okay.
yeah.
Uh,
And
I
and also the time frame, Sister Brenda, I know that some people say, well, by now you ought to be over. It's been 3 years. But how long do you see typically the grief process where it's so devastating?
Well, usually within 6 to 9 months, people are sort of back into the routine of doing normal things,
Mhm.
but they're not healed. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my
It can take years to actually heal. It's up to the person. But usually after about 2 years, they're moving along pretty good, you know.
God. Right.
And one thing you need to realize too is you have to grieve every loss. So
Mhm.
imagine people who've lost a loved one and then they just go through a hurricane, Harvey.
Oh
Okay,
my
that's
God.
another loss. They've lost their homes, maybe.
Right,
You know,
right.
when you
That's
and the next thing like COVID hits, you lose your job. So you've
right.
got multiple losses there that you're dealing with, and they all have to be dealt with.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That's something I hadn't thought about, the Hurricane Harvey, because we got Sister Fleur, didn't you come from Katrina? Did you come through Katrina? Can't remember.
No, I was here before Katrina,
Katrina
but my family came.
family, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about people who have been in New Orleans and they love New Orleans, I mean, you know, like some people love where they come from, but those New Orleans people, they love New Orleans. And the fact that you have to look at everything underwater,
Mhm.
that's a death to everything you worked for 20, 30 years, and
Yep.
realizing you can't go back and try to sift through it and get it. It is gone. And then once you realize that and you're moving on to this strange place, that there was a lot of grief. I remember one of our members came, and her mother was there too, and her mother died. Her mother could not take it. It was so
Mhm.
devastating what she was grieving the loss of in New Orleans. She made it to Houston, but she just was so depressed in the hotel room that she died. That was one of the first funerals we did for Katrina. And it was of a mother that just couldn't take it. She grieved herself to death, you know?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of these here. First of all, can you, because we're gonna each talk about the different deaths we've had to go through and the grieving and how we got through it, because we do want to help our audience to understand that you got real live people who have been through all of these different kind of losses. And they're going to tell you, be a little transparent, tell you how they got through it and the fact how long it's been and how long it took, you know, some little things like that to encourage you to not give up hope during this season, how they got through the holiday season. I know, Brenda, y'all had a whole thing that you did on things you can do differently to kind of help you get through the holiday seasons and so forth. So let's go through that, and then we'll come back with our team to kind of share some of theirs. Can you kind of give me, without going through a whole thing, you said 7 weeks, right? Is it 7 weeks?
No, the Griefshare program is 13 weeks.
13 weeks, I'm sorry, 13 weeks. And
But-
so do you go through to teach them the steps of grief? I know when I was doing counseling in my elementary school, I had to teach the kids who had lost parents and things like that, the stages of grieving. Is that important for everybody to kind of know? Because that's what everybody has to go through, whether it's a divorce or, you know, whether it's Hurricane Katrina or a career, the process of what's that first step you go through with grief?
But the first thing you have to do is to acknowledge that you have lost someone, and you'll be surprised that some people are so shocked that they will not admit that they have actually lost someone. You have
Right.
to accept that that person is no longer with you.
Right.
Or
Right.
if it's not a person, it's a loss of a job or, you know, a home or something like that. You have to accept that things have changed and there's no going back to it. So that's the first step, just accept it.
And you just said a word there that just kind of made me have chills, because I think that's the real thing that kind of got me when I had different losses and things, that there's no going back. That life that you knew, or that you thought you knew, or that you thought you were going to have is changed. And when we drove away from Dallas, when my mother passed away, I realized I was leaving Dallas a different way without my mother being there in Dallas. So, you know, I turned around and looked backwards, and I was like, this is a whole chapter being closed. And I'm forced to go to this new chapter. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a divorce,
Right.
you know, or whether it's Katrina, you know, you can't go back to where it was. Whether it's your child, you know, you grow up and you think your child's going to be this, and then there's this medical problem that you realize your child is never going to do the things that all the other children. You have to realize that's number one. That's really difficult to do, is to acknowledge and accept the fact that that chapter is closed. It's not going to happen that way.
Right. And this is the next step that a lot of people fail to realize. You have to mourn. People think that they don't have to grieve,
Yeah.
but God designed us that way. We have to grieve. Even God grieves.
Right.
You know, he lost his son, Jesus.
Right.
You know? So we have to grieve. Even Jesus wept when he lost his friend. So
Right.
you have to admit it. You
Mhm.
have to name whatever it is that you lost or who it is that you lost, and then weep over it. Some people
And when you say, I'm sorry, but when you say mourn, I'm wanting to get kind of a definition or understanding about when you say a person needs to mourn. Does that mean that they need to really allow their feelings to be manifested?
yes,
Through whatever means that is? Is that what you mean?
yes. And you mourn according to your personality. Some people may not actually cry tears, but they have those emotional feelings inside. You can't hold it in, you have to let it out. So crying is just a release, okay?
Okay.
But
Okay.
talking is also a release. So if you're not a crier, you still need to get your emotions expressed out in the open. So you need to share it with somebody, talk about it, okay?
And that's where a good counselor comes in too, because you know, when people think about counseling, people are telling you what to do. A lot of times counseling is just allowing yourself to be free enough to release what it is you want to say to us in a safe place. And one of the things I know that Black people don't do as well in is we don't go to counselors, and we don't want to pay for counselors. And I tell you what, that's some of the best money you can spend is to pay for a counselor. I'm getting my counseling business going. I'm, been doing it forever because I just love doing it. But I'm going to say you need to invest in that person who is investing in you, because that's important for
Yeah,
you to be able to release. That's a part of your mourning, and it's a part of your letting go when you talk about it and you
yeah,
have someone to help you move forward, but
yeah.
not get stuck in just talking about it.
Right. And it's very important that you don't get stuck, because can you imagine losing someone and 15 years later, you're still grieving over them?
Yeah,
That can really mess up the rest of your life if you're holding on to that pain.
that's good. Because you know what? A lot of people, not a lot, but I've had a lot of women who they told me they're over their divorce. And then as soon as they start talking about that man, you see their faces turn red. And you can almost see they want to just, if they had a little something, they would smack them, and God forbid they had a gun or something, they'd be ready. Like, wait a minute, didn't you tell me you've been divorced for 30 years? Yeah, but lady, oh, you just don't know what he did to me. I know what he did to you, but you need some counseling.
Yeah,
You need to learn how to move beyond this. And it's not about so much about forgiving, it's about allowing yourself to grieve and to bury what you cannot change.
right.
Bury what is not going to come back to life. Bury what is, it's like you holding a dead corpse. No, you need to bury that.
Don't
'Cause
bury your feelings, because they will come up again. And
they
that's
will
what
cry.
happens.
Uh-huh.
If you don't let it go, give it to God, it will come up again, and it will ruin in some way every other relationship you come into contact with farther down the line, So
Sabotage. Mhm.
yes,
Because
yes,
who wants to date a woman that's always talking about her ex-husband, always talking about what a dog he was and how he hurt her? The new man does not want to hear that, you
no,
know?
no,
And so the thing you need to do is get a counselor, pay them to hear about it, but not, and even in relationships, when you go out to like lunch or whatever, and if you're that angry person all the time, I mean, everybody needs a friend to talk to, but I mean, with if it's been 30 years and you still, feel some kind of way that you feel like you're about to explode, you probably need to you did not go through that second step, which is really mourning, allowing your emotions to be released.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Don't minimize it. Don't think that your grief is nothing compared to somebody else. Don't compare, don't minimize it,
Okay.
because what you value, somebody else may not value. But if
Right.
it's valuable to you,
Mhm.
it's worth you mourning it.
Exactly. And God
So you
expects
can
us
be
to.
healed.
That's why he gave us the tears. And when we feel a certain way, that's why they flow. That's a part of releasing those emotions. And that's a part of mourning.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead. What's number 3?
Well, let me just say this before I get to that, because there's
Okay.
a couple of more steps. But
Okay.
you want to, first you got to mourn whatever it is you lost. Then you have to learn to appreciate what you have. And this can be in any disappointment that you experience in life.
Right.
On what you've lost, let it go. Then appreciate what you do have and be thankful for it. Okay.
Mhm.
And express that thanks. Okay. And the last thing is you want to prepare for what's ahead. A lot of people don't get out of their grief because they're afraid of the future.
Mm.
And they don't want to take any steps to change or to adjust to the changes in their lives. But you
Mhm.
know how life is, it will drag you along. Even if you're fighting against it, you can't stop life from going ahead. So change your attitude about what you're experiencing. Ask God to help you to get through the journey,
Okay.
and accept that he's got a better plan for you because he loves you.
Mhm.
So hold on to that hope that he's going to do great things for you, that you're not always going to be in your grief. You're not always
Yeah.
going to grieve. Okay.
Right. Not a real. Well, let me stop you there, because there's one thing you said that I always tell people when I'm counseling with them about this, is that you have to want to change. You have to want to get well. You have to want to be healed or get past the grief. You have to want to let these things go. So you say, ask God, prayer, that's why I think it's really great to be in a church, where people can help you pray, to ask God to help you get through it, because it is difficult.
It is.
Not something that you can do in your own human flesh, but when you ask God and you want to be whole, you want to move forward, you want to forgive them, it can be done. But it cannot be done if you don't want to, and if you don't ask God to help you do it.
That's right. Okay, so acknowledge and understand your own grief.
Mhm.
Now, allow your grief to be recognized by others. There's a scripture that says that the blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Right,
If you will not let people know that you're mourning, you will not be comforted.
right. Let them know. Yeah,
Let them
don't hold
know.
it a secret. Yeah,
It's just like society has made it so that they give you 3 days off from work and then they expect you to come back to work and be normal, be your
Right.
same old self.
right.
Well, don't tell them I'm fine, I can come back to work when you're not fine.
No, yeah.
Some people have even lost their jobs because they had not taken enough time off to mourn.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
May I interject something
Let's
right
go
here?
right ahead. Go ahead.
When my mother passed, I went to Virginia. I may have taken 5 days off. I went to Virginia, went to the funeral. We got everything organized for the funeral, went to the funeral. And then I may have taken a couple days after the funeral, but then I went back to work. And I was thinking I knew I wasn't healed, but I felt like I was okay.
Yeah.
I went back to work, and I was teaching at Valley West Elementary. I will never forget it. I took my children to the restroom. I was teaching, I believe I was teaching 4th grade. And I took the students to the restroom. And on the way back from the restroom, one of the boys at the back of the line did something. I don't know. I think he may have been talking too much. And when I tell you my voice, because I corrected him, but I screamed at him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it came from a place, I shocked myself. I was like, well, where in the world did that come from?
Mhm.
And one of the teachers came out of her room and she said, are you okay?
Mhm.
And I said, I didn't tell her, but I said to myself, no, I'm really not. I'm really not okay. And I realized then that I went back to work too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hurt a child for life,
yes,
and it
yes,
wasn't about the child and what the child was being a child, but
right,
you were not prepared to go
right.
back and handle that. So that's good.
So after that, I enrolled in counseling.
Good.
And
Good.
it helped me to work through, what I was feeling and work through my grief. So yeah, it
Good.
was very beneficial. But I realized that that was a time I was like, oh yeah, I'm not ready.
Not
I'm
ready.
not right yet. Yeah.
And another thing too, Sister Brenda, you'll probably bring this out because when I used to teach, and of course I have my degree in counseling, so when we did the classes and all the training stuff I've had, the thing that got me was you will go through these stages.
Mhm.
You may not go through it now, but at some point in time, it's gonna come out in some kind of way. You're gonna like, what's wrong with me? You never grieve. You never acknowledged it. You still holding on to it. The things we're talking about today. If you don't get these milestones accomplished, it's gonna keep you stuck. And one day or another, you're gonna continue to be stuck the rest of your life, or you're going to eventually go through it 10 years down the line, but you will go through it. Go ahead, Sister Brenda, finish that. You were saying letting other people in, because that's one of the things we want to do is block people out, say, I'm okay, don't ask me. And I know even somebody who died here recently, they said, when I come back to work, nobody, oh, this lady lost a baby.
Mm.
I can get this, but she said, when I come back to work, do not ask me anything about the baby. I can understand that, but here's the thing, like you said, nobody can help her if she's not talking to anybody, but maybe if she feels like that at work, she definitely needs to get some counseling outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you're actually talking to someone who's going through grief, don't push them to talk if they don't want to talk.
Exactly, that's good.
But just be there for them and listen and encourage them to seek help. Maybe you don't know what to say or you don't know what to tell them, but say, why don't you call your pastor? Why don't you go see a counselor and get somebody to help you,
Right.
and maybe they will be receptive. And a
Mhm.
lot of times, if you will just be a good listener, then they'll open up to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they feel like you're judging them or you're trying to tell them something. When you talk too much, you will tell them to get over it, or you'll tell them to do something they're not ready to do. And then they shut down and feel like you're judging them. So, and I know Brenda and I, there was about, 13 of us that had this class here recently on counseling. So we have counseling services that are available through Christian counseling, where we're not like professionals that therapeutic. There's different kinds of counselors, but we are Christian counselors, and that would be a good place to start if you're needing some counseling. And when you do counseling, it's an investment. And so you need to invest your time and be committed to your counseling time. And then of course I think you need to be willing to give a fee or something, because counselors, I don't know how much counselors charge. Does anybody know how much counselor charge these days per hour?
A lot.
Well, it
You-
depends. With my insurance, it's $30.
Yeah, okay, and I'm glad you brought that up, because insurance will pay for like 3 or 6 sessions, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so you need to ask your HR person if your insurance pays for some counseling sessions, and go get it. There's no shame in your game, and we got these counselors here, and Brenda and Skip are certified as well, and I am too. And we would be, I love counseling people, but I tell you, over the years, I've seen so many people that abuse it. They come, they take all your time, and then they don't want to be committed to come back at the same time. And then they never offer any kind of love offering for your time. And it's not that you want the money, but I think you need to invest in the person who's investing in you. I think it's something that Black people have got to get over, because we'll go and pay what, $5,000 for some red bottom shoes or whatever you want to call it. We go to a Beyonce concert and pay $75 or $300, and then for $30 you don't want to have a counselor. And this is one of the most important things in your life, is getting your mind right so you can move forward. So you want to invest in yourself and invest in the person who invests in you. I just say that like that.
And Lady O, I'm glad you said that, because grief is not just an emotional journey.
Right.
It's
Okay.
it's a mind thing as well. It's your mind,
Mm-hmm.
your emotions. Okay, it's the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
Will affect your whole body. Can even make you sick if you don't take care of yourself right.
Yes.
So get into it. I'm not going to go into all the little intricacies
Yeah.
of it, but
Right.
once you let others know that you are grieving, you have to feel free to grieve the way you grieve,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's crying or not, whether
Just
do
let it go.
how it affects you. Okay.
No right or wrong way, just let it go.
Yes. And even if you go to a professional, they may tell you about some grief stages, but I just want to tell you up front, don't expect you're going to go through A, B, C, D, E. No, you might do A,
Jump
then
around.
get to F, then come back down. And some of the stages that they mentioned, you may have even went through that stage before you lost your loved one.
Exactly.
So, but the point is, these are things that they have noticed that people who grieve, no matter what the loss is, they may experience that. Let me just give you a few short things that you might.
Okay, because we want to, and I want my other ladies to be ready to share a particular loss and how they went through that. So I'm gonna let Sister Brenda go through this, and so be ready for that. I don't want to catch you off guard, but I want you to be able to share, because there's so many kinds of losses that you have, that you're having to deal with during Christmas and Thanksgiving and family gatherings. And I know each of you have been able to do that. So we want to help the people who are having to go through Christmas this year with a loss, and whatever you've gone through, it will be able to help them to be able to go through it as well. Okay, Sister Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you're watching somebody who's going through grief, you may be able to identify some of these things and help them through it.
Okay.
Shock and disbelief. disorganized or they're confused, they lose focus. They act like they're numb to everything, they're in denial. They won't accept the fact the loved one is gone. They may be feeling guilty, thinking they have done something wrong or they have contributed to the loss. It could be true guilt or it could be false guilt, but that's another thing. They may be angry at the loved one, even angry at God. So,
Yes.
and then if they suppress those things, when it boils up, they get spirit over onto people who had nothing to do with it. So you can end up hurting other people.
That's
okay?
what Shelley did. She boiled over into this little boy. He probably like, what's wrong with my teacher?
And then some may go into depression. So they warn you against isolating yourself from others. If it's normal for you to be kind of very introverted, that's okay, but don't completely isolate yourself from other people. That is not good, because you could end up slipping into depression. And you go from depression, that's when they slip into this suicide ideations and stuff. So be careful, watch for things like that. You may start bargaining with God, saying, if you do this for me, then I'll, so, but all of those are just some of the things that you might notice. And if you see someone suffering like that, reach out to them, encourage them to seek help. Okay.
I think that's really good. And I think this goes really right along with what our subject is today, is during the holidays. Most time people want to isolate during the holidays. There's a Christmas party we've always gone to. Now I don't want to go to that. They're inviting us over to the dinner at Uncle Junior's house. And that reminds me, Big Mama's not there anymore, or, my ex-husband's going to be there or whatever. So let's talk about, how do you prepare yourself for the holidays when you don't feel jolly and bright? And you can give me some too, Brenda, but I want also my team, because they all had to go through the holidays after a major situation. So you want to go first, or you want them to share first?
Well, we've already said one thing is acceptance. You have to accept that your loved one is not going to be there with you this holiday.
Right.
And that's kind of hard to face, because sometimes you think you're fine up until the holidays and you start thinking about them and them not being there. So accept that they're not going to be with you, but you can still honor them and bring back up good memories about them to help you through the holiday. Okay.
And you know what, one of the things, that I have said to people too, is you don't have to go to the same old things. If there's a Christmas party that you and your husband used to go to, for instance, no, you don't want to go to that. So maybe you can go and start a new tradition. Maybe you and your girlfriends could go on a cruise. Something to take your mind off of it. So don't feel obligated that you have to go to the family dinner or you have to go here. You can start something new. Okay. I think that's okay.
And even if you go to the traditional thing, you can limit your time there. You do not have to stay.
Yeah.
You can just go say hello, I love you, have a nice time, and go leave.
Yeah. And that's a really good one too, because I know one of my friends 1 year lost her daughter, and I wanted her to come to the picnic at first met. I felt like that would get her mind off of so forth. And she said to me, I'm going to go because I trust you, whatever. So we got there and we were having a good time. And she came to me, she said, I'm ready to go. And she said, I'm ready to go. I need to go. And I left the picnic and took her home because she realized when her limit was that she could, and I had to be there for her to bring her. And so you can make up your mind that you don't have to stay the whole time. And so have an exit plan to be able to go. So Flair, Deborah, can y'all talk about any time, or Tish, that y'all have had to have the holidays and it's been after some devastation? Would y'all kind of share, be a little transparent to help some of the people that are watching today?
Well, I'll go quickly. In a year, I lost my mom and I got divorced. And The next year I moved from New Orleans and moved to Houston. That I thought was my way of getting over it and getting through it. And then I put everything into the children. So maybe I have not still, gone through a lot, because as you say, Lady O, sometimes if somebody mentions my husband's name, my ex-husband's name, yeah, I can
Got a flare up there.
I can kind of say some things, So I know I'm still dealing with that one after 30 years, but but I think that's what I've always done. I just kind of put everything into something else.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because that's a big one that people do. I call it flee. Yeah. They run away. And they run away to something else to put their energy into something else. So I'm going to go to Houston. It's a new place. And when I get there, I'm taking the kids and I'm going to put all my love and energy into my kids. And, and I don't know about your kids, but I'll tell people all the time, your kids will do the same thing. They will leave you.
Oh yeah, I know.
And they will disappoint you too. So you can't put all of your stuff. And this is what I was talking about a minute ago, Flair. And I wasn't talking about you, but I'm just talking about, if you don't do that, you never get past that stage. It's always there. So you got to always go back and finish that process of acknowledging that it happened, and to allow yourself to grieve, that it's okay. A lot of times people feel so hurt and devastated or embarrassed or whatever it is. They want to just act like, I'm okay. And you're not okay. So you have to grieve, and so you may have to get a counselor to help walk you through that, so you can talk it through. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being so transparent to say, because I know it's not easy, and especially when you've been a good wife and you've done everything to like I call it, live happily ever after. You've been the good little girl, you go to church, you serve the Lord. And so, and then all of a sudden, that thing that was so secure just falls apart.
Yeah.
And what was there is no longer there anymore, and it's not coming back. And so that's a very, very good example of that. So in the holidays, did you have any way you were able to get through the holidays?
Again, just like I just, gave to everybody else. I think that's where I get mine from. I just made sure everybody else was happy, made sure my sister was okay, and made sure the children had everything they needed, didn't want for anything. So I think that's what I've done to get over mine. And as I've gotten older, and I tell myself now, yeah, you probably need to see somebody.
Because you give, but you're giving yourself away.
Yeah.
And you got to learn to give to yourself, take care of you. And that really happens a lot of times when your kids get gone and you realize, I'm not a mommy anymore the way I know mommy to take care of everybody. They don't need to take care of them. And as a matter of fact, they're not coming over. They're going with their own family and their own kids. So what about me? What about me now? And so that may be the time you start to kind of acknowledge that, hey, I have to mourn what didn't happen.
Yeah.
And one of the ways I think you can do it is by starting something new that is about you and not about somebody else. Like you could say, well, I'm gonna give to my kids, I'm gonna give to people, I'm gonna make sure everybody's okay. That's okay to do that, but you still have not done anything to give to you to make yourself better. So counseling is a good way to you get the counselor to talk about it till you get it out.
Yeah.
All right, Sister Deborah. Come on, turn that mic on.
Okay. Well, I lost my mom, I lost my brother, but the most devastating loss was the loss of my marriage. That was the hardest, because I prayed and asked God for a husband for 8 years, and I was sure that this was it. And to have to go through the divorce, I didn't just lose him, our family situation, but I lost church family. I lost what I enjoyed doing in the church. I was no longer going to be a part of that church family that I helped build. So there was a lot of relationships that were lost. And so during the holiday, because our divorce was final like in September, so the first, well, like Christmas, it was like all about my child. So I was good at faking, and making it happen for her, but still hurting. And, and the most devastating part for me to even say now is the fact that I asked God to stop the world and let me get off because I've had enough. That you'll take care of my baby, you'll make sure she's taken care of, but I can't do this anymore. But praise God that I don't feel like that anymore. And then, and then, it was like church hurt in the midst of all of that, with him being the pastor and then the people, at the church. And then I leave there and go back to what I thought was a safe place to be, my home church. And then I get wounded there. And then I go to another church where I think is, I'm going to be okay. And then I get wounded there.
Oh my.
And so by the time I got to First Met, I really did not trust church people. It's like, God, I love you, but your people.
And I could sense it too. Now, I didn't know all of that history, but I could sense she has walls up and she does not trust. And you did share with me about the divorce, but I didn't know about all the other different churches. But I can just imagine, even being a pastor's wife myself, because I know what we put into these churches to help build these marriages and support these pastors. And then for them to divorce, want to divorce or go with somebody else, where does that leave you? Because the church is really like your family, it's your life.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to not only grieve your marriage, but the members in the church who you have relationships with, the role that you had there,
Yep.
everything. So,
Yep.
How did you handle that with, holidays and things like that?
Well, like I said, I just went ahead and did the holidays, because I had a child. It was all about making sure that she was okay, because I stopped going to church, period, at one point.
Wow.
But God's, was speaking to me, and you have to bring this child up to know me. So, I kept going to church and faking it, and for like 2 years, I was just in a horrible place. And the church I went back to, there was a revival, and that revival, the word that came through that revival, and I would bless the Lord at all times, and that got me to the other side. So
How did you get to First Met? Because I don't even remember how you got there, but I know God led you.
well, I've always known about First Met because the mother of our church, her grandchildren, High Towers, were part of your.
Oh,
so I always knew about it, but I never, I'd never attended, but it was always on my mind.
Yeah.
And so I went to the other church, and once I left, I said, I'm going to First Met Metropolitan. That's where I'm going to go. And I felt, like you said, I had the walls up, but the one thing that made me content in being at First Met was Bishop O. The Sunday, I can't remember that sermon, but it was speaking to me, and he was standing at the back, and I was going out, and it was a lot of people shaking his hand, but I was just going by, I wasn't gonna shake his hand. And he reached over all those people, and he shook my hand and told me, I felt you today, my sister. And I was like, what? And that was the turning point.
Yes.
And
I'm glad you shared that, because one of the things that can really help you get through this is a good church home.
Yeah.
People these days kind of make light of, you say, where is your church home? And people just go here and there. But you really need to have a church home where you have a good pastor who can be a father figure, who won't abuse you and won't mislead you, and do the best. He's not perfect, but a great role model who can love and guide you. And then also to have a first lady who can do the same, who they're in partnership and working together, that's healthy, has a healthy relationship where you can feel at home and become a part of the family and to grow. And I just saw you, when I say from a distance, I mean, I didn't push you or push into your life, but I know the Holy Spirit showed me that there was a lot of hurt there, and that we have had several pastors' wives who come to our church to heal. And they do, they heal, and most of them heal and go on somewhere else or whatever. But First Met is a safe place to heal because there is a lot of church hurt sometimes. And you
Right.
have to learn how to forgive
Yes.
the church
The
and
yeah.
grieve your church, the grieve a church
Right.
that you gotta leave.
Right. And you know, and at that time too, the community life groups came up, and that was saving grace, because Naked was the class that I joined, and you know, everybody sharing, that helped me to open up and share
Right.
my story.
Yeah, so get your good church home, become a part of a community life group if you're not, because those are the places where you can get the intimate, close relationships going, and you can share. Because one of the things the motto we have with community life groups is called doing life together. And life is not always happy, it's not always sad, it's not always up. But when you have a group of people that are doing life with you, you can make it. But if you're out there alone, if you isolate, then that's when Satan's going to tell you, take your life. Nobody cares. They'll be okay. And I'm going to tell you something, and this is for somebody who's watching me. Sister Deborah, you said it a minute ago, you may get so low when you're isolated that you will feel like, I just want to check out. I don't want to be in this world anymore. And there's so much more that God has for you to do. So much more joy. It says joy comes in the morning. You
Yeah.
got to stay around to the morning, okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Don't check out at your midnight. You're going to miss your
right,
morning.
Yeah.
right,
And those are the kind of things you get when you're a part of a church and when you're a part of a group or when you're part of women, because we have all been there. And but by the grace of God, sending us somebody through a word, a sermon, a song at church, or a community life group, or some good mother, somebody saying, or a pastor saying, I felt it today, whatever, you need somebody to speak into your life, because Satan's going to speak into your life and tell you, just check out. This is too much.
mm-hmm,
I tell you, it's a season, and my thing I always say is that this too shall pass.
this
It's
too
not going
shall
to pass
pass.
overnight, but if you
Right.
stay around and hang around, then you're going to reap the blessings, the bountiful blessings. I know when Bishop and I were having problems years ago, and that was one of the things Satan told me, nobody cares about you, and church people can be really, really something else. And those
Yeah.
church people don't care about you, and
Right.
you just need to go ahead and kill yourself. Nobody care.
Right.
And so, but had I done that way back then, I would never have reaped the benefits of
Exactly.
what I have now.
Right,
Yes.
right,
Anybody
right.
who's thinking about taking your life,
Yeah.
take it. Satan knows what your future is, and he's trying to
That's
destroy your future.
Yeah.
He's trying to destroy your children's future. That if I weren't here for my grandchildren and for my children, for First Met, I wouldn't have been here for First Met. So
right.
so you got to just say, I'm not going to do that now. I may be slopping and snotting and going on and whatever, get out of bed today,
yeah.
but tomorrow I'll get out. But today I'm going to stay in the bed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And you can allow that. Everybody is allowed of time to kind of grieve or get in the bed and I just want to sleep today. Don't nobody touch me. Don't nobody bother me. It's okay to have those days.
Right.
Y'all know the song? It was a song years ago said, it's just one of those days
Yeah.
that a girl goes through. Well,
One of them days. Yeah, I remember that.
one of them
I remember
days.
that song.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I used to sing that song a lot. Just one of them days. It's not the day to come. Nobody come at me. And I do need to kind of isolate in my room to get some rest. A lot of times you need to just rest your mind.
Yes.
Go,
Rest, just don't quit.
just don't quit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, don't quit. Yeah.
Rest. And go spend a week with one of your friends, or one of the relatives. I just get away for a minute, but don't get away to where Satan's going to tell you to take your life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need
And
to-
Lady O, I remember when my mother passed, you and Pastor O called the day that it happened. And I remember you told me something I'll never forget. You said you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days. And don't try to make a bad day, don't get so sunk into your bad day. Just it's a bad day.
Yeah.
And then when you have a
with
good day, enjoy the good day. It's okay.
Exactly.
I really, I never will forget that. And then also, shortly after that, Tila and Cherie ministered in song.
Yes.
And that Sunday, I will never forget it. It was like a breakthrough for me in my feelings about my mother passing. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. I do not remember the name of the song, but I do remember them ministering.
Right.
And I remember feeling like a weight was lifted.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why we need to come to church, because you don't never know when it's your day.
That's
Right. Right.
Okay. You don't never know when God has sent somebody there, whether it's a song or dance, a poem, just shake your hand, give you a hug. Don't miss your appointments. You got to be in church
Right.
so you don't miss it,
So
because
you
there's
don't miss
always
it.
going to be something
Yeah.
there. So there's
Yeah.
healing for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the church. And if you
Yeah.
miss it, a lot of people, when they get in things, that first thing they want to do is stop coming to church.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to keep coming to church, even if you have to sit on that back row, but don't stop coming to
Yeah.
church.
I'm coming. Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Just
So,
keep asking God to be with you. Just keep
Yes.
asking God. He loves
Got
you and he will be with you through it. In the
Mhm.
brighter days ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
even if you don't understand it, or if you can't
Yeah.
believe it right now, if it look like it's, I hear what you're saying, but I can't see.
You're right.
You don't know what happened to me. And that's true.
Mhm.
We don't know what happened to you,
Yeah.
but we do know that God is able.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you
Amen.
stay on board the ship, he's gonna get you to the promised land. But if you
Yeah.
jump off the ship,
You can't get there.
That's right.
you're gonna miss that future that God has for you.
Mhm. And you have to remember that
Uh-huh.
nothing really will separate you from the love of God, because
Yeah.
I was angry with God,
Amen. Yeah.
but he kept me even in the anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. Now, see, you're
He-
gonna go there with that song, Yolanda Adams. I had that with my
He
mother.
kept me, yes,
He kept me in the midst of the storm. Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
have some storms.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yes,
God will keep you in that storm if you just hang on
yes,
and
yes.
don't give up. Yeah, so he kept me, Yolanda Adams. I still, when I think about that song, I was on my way to, my mother was in the hospital, and was saying through many hard trials and temptations on every hand. Satan tried to tempt me and to keep me from put my feet in
Sinking
sinking
on
sand.
sinking sand, yeah.
Yeah.
I suggest that you just encourage them, show them love and compassion. Don't try to give them don't preach to them, okay? Don't preach to them. You can tell them that God loves them, but let them know that, show God's love. That's what you need to do. Keep them encouraged, be kind to them, show some compassion toward them,
Okay.
invite them out.
Invite them out. Don't
Yeah.
push, don't
Don't
press.
push them, don't press, but spend time with them. Just show your love. That's the main thing.
I think we'll close on that. Just show your love.
Mhm.
Whatever that is, show your love and be there for them, be a good listener, and help somebody get through the holiday seasons at whatever level they are. Help them get through it. We never know when we'll need that help. And that's what we're all here to do, is to help one another. And don't forget, Griefshare meets at First Metropolitan Church and other churches. Go online, put your zip code in, and don't do this alone. Allow somebody to be your help, somebody to reach out and love on you. So listen, that's all we have for today. I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy your holidays and help someone else do the same.